I've got all of the connections back up. So hopefully. So I was a little distracted. However, before we went to the break, you mentioned that your aunt has accumulated a certain amount of wealth.
Yes.
And it sounds like it made you a little bitter that she didn't circle back to you and your brother and
Yes.
share that information so that you too could participate. What did she say when you asked
When
her that?
so we had this conversation.
And the reason I'm
Mhm,
digging there is because in our family, in my family,
mhm.
I've seen that too. And I'm
Mm,
speculating that in other people's families,
the same thing was
they've
going
witnessed
on.
it.
Absolutely.
And so what is it, is this where the crabs in a bucket thing comes from? Tell us what your aunt said.
So I don't I don't know if it's the crabs in the bucket. I do believe she thought, as she thought about herself, that it would just really in some way kind of magically happen.
For everyone
Um,
else.
yes, that there would be a point in your life where you would be tired of something happening, or your finances being out of control, and it would just click. And when she and I had this conversation, which wasn't that long ago, it was probably a year and a half ago. So that's pretty late in life for me.
Right.
I'm over 50.
And she started how long ago, would you say?
Oh, wow. I was a kid
Mm-hmm.
because I remember visiting her before my mother, my brother, and I moved out here permanently.
Mm-hmm.
So that had to have been in the late 70s. I'd say about 76, 77.
So now, as we talk about mindsets and
Mhm,
how to change these mindsets, knowing what your aunt did, what kind of conversations are you now having with not just your children, but are you now an aunt?
So I'm the conversations that I'm having are around making sure, because I'm still in the learning process as
Right?
well,
Yeah.
but talking to them about the fact that, one, being honest about what my relationship
Is with
is
money.
with money.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said that it's been a love hate relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I love it and it hates me.
Okay. Okay.
That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
And to help them understand that investing, saving, paying yourself um, first,
Mm-hmm.
putting away,
Mm-hmm.
and putting away money that is not touchable. It's separate from having an emergency fund. This is money that will fund your future.
Mm-hmm.
Saving money for things that you want in the future, for a vacation, for a new bag, for whatever it is it might be.
So you're
Um,
talking to them about saying that these things are important as far as prioritizing.
yes. And also, if the help that you need is not coming from the conversations, then seeking out that help
That's
with
good.
a therapist, with someone who is what I would call not necessarily a financial planner, because it's deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about changing the mindset, and I have that. I put that down about not changing your getting financial literacy education doesn't fix the trauma.
Mm.
You have to deal with the trauma to
Let's
then
talk about the
become
trauma.
okay.
What kind of trauma are we talking about?
So trauma could be not having enough money to eat,
Okay.
to pay your bills, to um, not pay the light bill.
Right.
And in all honesty, I have experienced that as a single parent with three children.
So, what is the impact if I grew up in a household where there was not enough?
Mhm.
what type of behavior did I create? Am I possibly creating?
So there's a lot of anxiety around, are the lights going to be on today? Is there going to be food in the refrigerator?
Mhm.
Uh,
What
is
about when
my
I get money in my hands?
then
What's my behavior like?
then the anxiety is there, but it's euphoric anxiety. So then it's the sky's the limit. We can go out, we can go to the mall, we can go out to eat, uh, we can do all of these things that we weren't able to do when we didn't have
Did I pay
the
my
money.
light bill?
Sometimes you did, and sometimes you didn't,
Mm-hmm.
because the mindset is, I didn't feel good about money. I didn't feel good about not having. So therefore, I'm going to take care of me, air
First, that's
quotes,
that euphoric.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And then I am going to think about those other things.
And thank you for saying it like that, because now if we think about it, we either have been or we know someone who gets paid, they blow their money
Absolutely.
on themselves,
Absolutely.
and then they're calling somebody the next day
Tomorrow, mom,
or next week
auntie,
to help them pay the important bills.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want folks to understand and to also not beat yourself up, because there is the downside of that where you beat yourself up and you say, I'm not going to do that again.
And like what we're talking about, the whole point of the show today, and you prefaced it a while back, is that there's a trauma
Correct.
that we need to deal with. So we are not, this conversation is not to bash you.
Correct.
This conversation is to say, identify if that's a behavior you display, and understand that that's trauma.
Absolutely.
And understand that that trauma is preventing you from seeing clearly and having a good relationship with money.
Absolutely.
And that there is a solution.
Absolutely. There is. And so you first, as Keisha said, have to recognize that in yourself. Or someone else may have recognized it and attempted to or had that conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always know how to do those things in love, because even when family members have had the conversation with me,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't come across as helpful or adoring or loving.
Mm-hmm.
It was, how could you be so stupid
Right.
to blow your rent
It
money,
was
your life?
accusatory,
Absolutely.
demeaning, condemning.
Absolutely.
So if you've been that person, or you've had someone do that to you, that's not the approach to take.
Absolutely not. You have to do it in love, and you have to do it from a place of support, that I don't want you to be anxious about money. I don't want you to be depressed about money, having it or not having it. I want you to have a healthy relationship with money. It's unavoidable. We all have to have money to be able to live and do the things that we do, and that we want to do. But we need to do it in a healthy way. And so some of the solutions are writing down to begin with, and I've done this, every dime you spend, every penny you spend,
Mm-hmm.
to the penny.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to Starbucks every day, write down every day how much you're spending at Starbucks.
And this process is to identify where your money is going.
Absolutely.
Because oftentimes we think we don't make enough money, but like we just said, our forefathers, grandparents, great grandparents had very little,
much less,
and managed to do a lot more than what we're accomplishing.
Absolutely.
With a whole lot less.
Absolutely.
And so it's a matter of figuring out where your money is going.
Absolutely.
And so this process will help you to do that.
Absolutely. And so if you do that for 30 days, then you can go back and look and see, because even your spending is going to tell you, it may not even be the money that is filling the void, but where you're going and
where the money
spending
is
is going.
Well, you
is
know that
filling
saying,
the void.
where if you look at a person's bank account or checkbook, you will learn quickly what's important to them.
Absolutely.
So taking the time, I know I have a bank account with Bank of America, and online they have this app where you can actually budget. And if you start assigning your purchases to categories, it will then automatically assign that. And I've taken the time to do that, so I can quickly go in and click on this graph that pops up, and it shows me where I'm spending a majority of my money, so that I can make adjustments.
Right.
And I love food. That's what, that's what my bank is saying. Girl, you eating out, you going to the grocery store. Right. So then I'm able to tweak that. And I know, one of my goals is to meal plan and cook at home more. And then when I do that, I see the decreases start to happen. It's just a matter of staying disciplined.
Right. And there are folks who, because of the conditions or situations that they're in, who may not have access to a kitchen, who have to eat out, there's still a way for you to be able to do that and be able to put money aside. You don't have to go to the most extravagant restaurant, and you can still eat healthy. And I'm not saying that, you have to sacrifice your health because you don't have access.
Don't want to do that.
Absolutely, because then that will exacerbate
the trauma.
Whatever. Exactly.
And to that point, because we are what we eat.
Absolutely.
And I'm switching gears just a little bit, but just to tie this all in, to let you all know that it all works together. There's a reason why Black communities are targeted by fast food, cheap restaurants, alcohol, smoking. There's a reason they target our community with that stuff.
Right.
Because a lot of it is inexpensive. It deadens the pain. It what do you call it? Euphoric. It gives you sugar is a drug.
Absolutely.
It gives you a momentary high, makes you think everything is okay for a minute. But we need to return back to eating fruits and vegetables and cooking at home and making family the center and those are the types of things that, because our bodies are constantly replenishing, our cells are constantly replenishing, and over time, if you consistently pour health into your body, then you start thinking more clearly, and then you can think on these things about you can have a better understanding as you're listening to this broadcast about financial literacy.
Absolutely.
I mean, really. If you drunk listening to it right now, or loaded, or you on a sugar high, chances are you're not really paying attention. And I might sound like I'm being drastic, but that's real talk.
Absolutely.
If you're not in your right mind, then how are you making right decisions?
Right. And I want folks to know that this is not this conversation that we are having, and the information that I'm sharing starts with me first. So I don't want anyone to think, it sounds so great. She has it all together, or she's doing it. Absolutely not. There are struggles that I have. I am, I need a sugar detox because that's one of the things that helps me deal with the trauma that satiates what has gone on, and even alone. The things that still go on. And I really want folks to know that, one, you aren't alone, but two, you can overcome and conquer this.
That part.
Yes.
That's the most important part that we're preaching. And the purpose for this show is how to overcome. So you started by saying, identify where you're spending your money.
Yes.
And the way of doing that is creating a 30-day diary of some type where you're writing down your spending.
And habits. I mean, every single
save your receipts. Some other ways to do that would be to save your receipts. Or if you have online banking, you just look at your past 30 days.
Absolutely.
Take the time to sit down and write out where you're spending your money.
Right. You have to also think about this as something that is life or death to you.
Absolutely.
Because if we don't begin to change, we've all heard that by 2053,
The
I
Black
believe is,
community will be at
yes,
zero debt. I mean, zero wealth.
yes, well,
Yeah.
so it is extremely important. So once you've looked at your 30-day diary, you don't stop doing that. So even though you are looking at it, the very next month you're going to
Do
do
it
the
again.
exact same thing.
Mhm.
But you want to also then begin to analyze, okay, I spend 7 days a week at Starbucks. If you're back at work, that might be your outlet for getting out of the office or what have you. Um, you have to be willing to make some sacrifices
Right.
and say, right now, I can't give up Starbucks,
Mhm.
but I don't have to go 7 days.
Mhm.
I'll cut that in half
Right.
and I'll go 3 days
Mhm.
out of the week. Make coffee at home.
Right.
Um,
Find out what the Starbucks recipes are. I know I started spending money on the medicine ball, and that puppy is like $5 or $6 or
mhm,
more. And so it only took me 2 times of buying the medicine ball
to say
to
no
go
more.
search the ingredients, went right to the Safeway and pulled those teas off the
Absolutely.
shelf myself. And I make them right at home. I bought me a cute little mug to, what's it called? To kind of give me a little motivation
Absolutely.
and inspiration to make the tea at home myself.
Absolutely. I went to Panera the other day for lunch with a friend, and I had the turkey chili. And I said the exact same thing. I'm going to go online, find the recipe, and replicate it at home, so that I'm not spending out at Panera, which can be expensive.
Yeah.
So you then make adjustments where needed, and you have to know where that is. No one can tell you that. You have to get really honest with yourself.
How about starting with what the long-term goal is? And so what I mean by that, for
Mhm.
me personally, I know what I've done the the task of
Mhm.
looking at when I die and people are
Mhm.
standing in line at my funeral,
Mhm.
what are they saying about me?
Right.
What do I want people to say about me?
Right.
How did she impact it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so with that already written out, I work backwards.
Mhm.
And so
Mhm.
I have a 10-year plan. I have a 5-year plan. I have a 3-year plan. I have a 1-year plan. That also enables me to figure out how much money I want to be making every
Right.
year.
Right.
And so if I figure out how much money I want to make and what projects I want to do, what things I want to accomplish,
Right.
I'm also looking at this is what I want to save. This is what I want to be able to invest.
Right.
And when you see those numbers very clearly, if you say, I want to save $20,000
Mhm.
next year,
Mhm.
and if you do what you just said, if I start writing down where my money is going, then I can figure out what I need to cut out, stop spending on, and then
Absolutely.
throw that money at my $20,000 savings account.
Correct. There are also though folks who are starting, um, and I say this respectfully, at the very bottom, and they just want to be able to save. Maybe it's $100.
$100. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Exactly. And so that's
But the same process applies.
it absolutely does. And that's why folks have to get honest with themselves about what it is they want to do, and then begin to act on how they're going to do it. If you are not having that conversation with yourself, if you are not being completely honest about the fact that I go to Starbucks every day because it makes me feel good to be able to hand my debit card or my Starbucks card or put the app up, because Coffee might have been a big deal in your house.
Right.
It may have been.
Coffee is a big deal in our society.
Yes.
It there's a sense of there's something attached to that says you're with the in crowd. It's popular.
Right.
So if I can drive through the Starbucks and, like you said, take my phone out and have them do my phone, then and it makes me feel important.
Absolutely.
It makes me feel like I belong.
Absolutely.
And so you got to get okay with not caring about that type of thing.
And that is tied to the trauma, which requires you to find that help that you need to be able to deal with the trauma.
I love that.
You may not, fix it in one day. Don't believe that this is a short process.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it's going to take you the rest of your life, but it may for some folks. It just may, depending on how traumatic things have been and what other variables might be going on in their life. This is not a cookie cutter involved process.
Right.
It is very specific and detailed to the person that is going through the process.
Right. And I like that you point that out, because everyone's path is different.
Yes.
Everyone's financials unravel different. And what works for me may not work for you. But one thing that is true is that if you are not in a position where you are saving, you need to be in a position where you can.
Absolutely.
And saving is the beginning of you being able to build a solid financial future for yourself, for your loved ones, for whoever it is that you are responsible for. And looking at that trauma is the first part, because we stated earlier, in the Black community, it was intentional to shield Black people from this kind of information. And so it put us in a position where we were in a mode of just surviving. And
thriving was not even
thriving.
An option.
And so let's talk about thriving. The opposite of surviving is thriving. People who thrive are futuristic.
Yes.
People who thrive are looking at a potential increase.
Yes.
They're looking at gain. They're looking at prosperity. They're looking at change.
Right.
And so
they're looking within.
That's where I was going.
Yes,
with that.
They are looking
that's
within.
Where I was going
it is
with
not
that.
something that is external, that is going to give you that opportunity, that feeling. Everything you need to be who you want to be is already inside of you.
But you got to first decide that that's who you want to be. You got to decide that you are worth, that you can, that it is possible.
Right.
So if you're talking to yourself about the negative things going on, oh, my life is like this, my life is so bad, I'm not ever going to be this, I can't, these bills always seem to be, well, you're living the life that you talk about.
Right. And that goes back to dealing with the trauma.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, you got the message that you're never going to make it, that you're always going to have bills, that you'll never have more than what you had maybe as a child or have experienced somewhere along the line. You have to look at that trauma, and it has to be broken down. Now, those things can happen simultaneously. You can be keeping your food diary, your spending diary, making small investments, learning about investments if you're not ready to do that. But you have to make that commitment that I understand that there's something going on with me. I don't like what's going on with me. I don't like how then it affects how I spend my money, how I think about my money, how I either save, don't save, invest, or don't invest my money. And I want that to be different. So I got to peel back the layers of what is this trauma about? How is it tied to money?
Right.
And then you can start the process of catapulting yourself to that life that you want to live.
So just to put this into a nice little package with a bow on it, you're saying there's 3 steps that we need to take. The first is to acknowledge that I have an unhealthy relationship with money.
Absolutely.
The second is to assess my finances. How am I spending my money? Where is it going?
Absolutely.
How much can I shape back? If that's not a word, but you know what I mean. How much can I pull back so that I can start redirecting that money somewhere else?
Absolutely.
And then finally, set out to learn, become
Yes.
financially literate.
Right. Empowered.
Empowered.
Because literacy is you learning something. It doesn't mean that you're going to apply it.
Okay. I like that.
I may know how to drive. Doesn't mean I'm going to drive all the time,
Right.
or that
You
I
can
will
learn, but
drive.
you won't.
Exactly.
Awesome. We're going to take another short break. And when we come back, we're going to close this out. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key, and we'll be right back. Hey, y'all.
I really like this.
Miss Valencia. Hello, my dear. Miss Natalie. Hey, lady. This is true. Yeah, we don't know how we spend money. That's why we have no money.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Mike, sugar is a drug. Yes, I will say it again. It is a drug.
My oldest daughter has a shirt that says "Sugar, it's killing us." Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
Sugar
And when
is
you
not
look at, you mentioned about our neighborhoods and things. That's why you see so many corner stores. That's why in the corner store, water is 3 or 4 times the amount of a soda.
Ooh.
99 cents for a 2-liter bottle of soda, but $3.49 for a gallon of water.
Well, when we come back from the break, let's talk about
Okay.
that, because there are some things going on in our society that, when we say they're targeted towards us intentionally, they're there to keep us down as a community.
Absolutely.
It's why we are where we are.
Absolutely.
And we've got to start making some very intentional decisions to not buy into what they're trying to sell us.
And as you said, we have to understand that it's not, a lot of people believe that we believe in conspiracy theories. But it's not a theory.
Yeah.
There is a purpose.
There's evidence.
Absolutely.
Well, the cigarette companies have already been on trial about it. They got audio.
They have declared a war
Yeah.
on the Black community.
So, are we just going to sit there and act like we didn't hear it?
No, we cannot.
We didn't see it. I'm surprised at the amount of information that's out there and the amount of people who still smoke.
Yes, I had that conversation not too long ago.
The mentality changed.
Well, and that's just so crazy. It's like you see that you clearly see this is killing you. It's almost like you go through this door and there's a raging, burning fire.
And you continue on to the fire.
And and if you go through that door, you're gonna get it gives you a momentary tan.
Right.
But then it takes you out.
Exactly.
But you go through it anyway because you're gonna get tan.
Right.
The same thing with athletics, right? Every time you look at athletics, you see a story every week about somebody that lost their career behind drugs or alcohol. And the next week, the next week.
And that's
they are not dealing with what's really going on with them. And somehow there was a trauma that happened and occurred, and they have not figured out
how to change that
in
order to make it work when they get to that point.
Do you have a minute?
I'm in the middle of the radio show.
I thought your show was over with.
She's almost done, though.
You know what I thought your show was over with? Because I heard the music.
Give me 10.
I want to talk to you about
one.
Okay.
Go.
Hey, everyone. We're back. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key. And during the break, we were having a lively discussion about some facts that are just blatant facts out there in our faces as a Black community. And we seem to turn a blind eye and walk straight into them anyway. And then Donicia pointed out that, again, it just all goes back to not addressing the trauma. So it's like we keep, what is the definition of insanity?
We keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result.
Right. And so my engineer Dosti was talking about in the sporting athletic community, you see, paper after paper, story after story of these athletes who get into these careers where they're making all this money, but then all of a sudden they either die or some kind of horrible fate falls upon them where they've taken their money and done some crazy things with it, mismanaging the money.
Yes.
Right.
We even see that with not just athletes, but superstars, people who win the
Absolutely.
lottery.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is not really, at this point, this transcends color barriers.
Correct. It does.
Mhm.
It
People who
absolutely
have a
does.
lot of money and then lose it, it's
Mhm.
because of how you think about money
Absolutely.
based on some experience that has happened in your life, and your relationship with money is incorrect.
Right.
And we talked also during the break about the tobacco companies.
Mm-hmm.
They've been sued over and over for decades. And it's been proven that they target Black people with
Right.
cigarette campaigns. And yet I still know people who smoke.
Absolutely.
They've come out blatantly and said, hey, yeah, there's this chemical substance in here that's going to get you hooked.
Yeah.
And we are trying to take you out because we know that your community is trying to deaden the pain of the trauma that our ancestors
absolutely
put on you,
bestowed on
you centuries ago. And y'all are looking for ways to kill the pain because y'all don't want to deal with the trauma, because we're not going to point out to you that there's trauma. We're not going to admit that there's trauma. We're just going to keep throwing stuff at you that's real cheap, accessible, and let you kill yourselves.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to make money off of it.
Right. And we're going to re-traumatize you. In addition to what you've already experienced, we're going to continue to re-traumatize you and dangle the carrot of these items that you can gain really quick access to.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about how there are liquor stores in
almost every corner
of the Black community. You can go in and buy a 2-liter soda for 99 cents. But a gallon of water is $3-4.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in a situation financially where you have limited income and limited resources, what are you going to do?
Right.
As a family, you are going to.
You got to choose the inexpensive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's where policy and government come in to change those things. That's the only time that I say lean on the government, when we've got to change policy to keep liquor stores and things out of our neighborhoods, or to get the right types of foods into these social programs that are more healthy for families that have limited income. That's where the government needs to come in. We've got these new cigarettes out now. So the only thing they're doing is repackaging
the
carrot.
Right.
Instead
and now
of
they're targeting to younger and younger audiences with the vaping and
the flavors.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They sold stale Marlboros back in the 80s. They didn't have to taste or smell like nothing.
Right.
Now they got to make them light up and with the flavor and stuff too, because the kids want more. But they're still, but the goal is still the same.
Absolutely. And that is why, again, we have to deal with our trauma. And in addition to dealing with our trauma, we have to make sure that we are not re-traumatizing our children, our children's children. We need to get access to mental health resources that can help us nip that trauma in the bud. And then we can begin to provide healthy solutions, healthy resources to our family and folks that are in our lives, whether they are family or not.
Now let's talk about those resources for mental health. Can you share with the listening audience and our audience that's watching right now what some of those resources look like? Where can we go if we want to start with self? Where can we go when we want to get real and say, I don't want to continue this vicious cycle. I want to do better, not only for myself, but for my children, for my nieces and nephews.
Absolutely. So if you are looking for therapy, looking for a therapist, there are several websites that you can go to. One is called Therapy for Black Girls. And you can get information about where to go in your area. Also, melanin and mental health is another resource that therapists post their availability. They provide whether or not they're taking new clients. So you can search all over the country. Psychology Today is also another resource. And even though it provides for a variety of mental health professionals, you can be very specific if you're looking for an African American therapist, a male, a female. Do they, is their specialty in trauma? And then the last one is Black Men Heal. They also provide support for you to be able to connect with a therapist.
And I found this other one. Thank you for providing that information. I saw this one last week in the KDEE newsletter. It's called the Black Men's Alive and Well Support Group. And it says it's a soul-drenched power support group for Black men. Join us to discuss what being a Black man in America really means. Come and experience the unique therapeutic value of one Black man helping another. And it's called, it says Soul Space, in-person group, Monday. So this was an old ad. Looks like it says September 13th, 6 to 8 p.m. I'll see if I can find the website to that and share that information. And but I'll look them up. Maybe we can look them up. Black Men's Alive and Well Support Group.
And if you go to my Instagram page, I'm going to be providing a list of resources, both websites and some information that I'll share out about steps you can take. Okay. And so my Instagram page is the_Black_mental_affect. And that's AFFECT. And I'll have those up by tomorrow morning.
Okay. And I'm going to be sure to put that information. If you're watching online, I'll put that information in the links as well in the post so that we can have it to reference. And just want to thank you again for being on the show today. It's been amazing. Thank you, everyone, for listening. You're listening to 97.5 FM KDEE. I am Agent Key. And remember, if you are doing what you were created to do, I will see you at the top. Ooh. 159. Yes. Seconds to spare. Hey, everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in. Miss Bobby, thank you. Yes. Thank you. Lisa, yes, really lost a grocery store in El Paso Heights and they turned out. Yeah.
That's so sad.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, thank you all for watching. And sorry we got connected late, but y'all know how technology is. We'll see you guys soon. Bye. Take care. You're welcome. Thank you, Miss Lynn. Thank you. See you guys soon. See y'all next week.
Yes.
Bye now.